The message came at midnight, Earth time. Park Do-yeon was sleeping in his small apartment in the diplomatic quarter when his communicator screamed with an emergency alert. He sat up in bed and read the words 3 times before he believed them. The Galactic Council had summoned humanity to answer for its crimes. Do-yeon dressed quickly and made his way to the Terran embassy. The halls were empty at this hour, but he could feel the tension in the air. By the time he reached his office, his aide was already waiting for him. Lieutenant Yoon Nari stood at attention, her face pale under the harsh lights. "Sir, the summons is official," she said. "High Speaker Orth signed it himself? We have 3 days to reach Meridian Station." Do-yeon sat down heavily in his chair. He had been Earth's ambassador to the galactic community for 6 years. In that time, he had attended hundreds of meetings, signed dozens of treaties, and smiled through countless insults. But he had never been summoned. No human had. The Council only summoned species when they wanted to punish them. "What are the charges?" he asked. Nari handed him a datapad. 17 violations of expansion protocols. Refusal to submit military technology for inspection. Aggressive colonization of contested systems. She paused. "They're also calling us a threat to galactic stability." Do-yeon read through the list. Some of the charges were true. Humanity had expanded fast, maybe too fast. In 50 years, they had claimed 3 star systems and built colonies on 12 worlds. They had developed weapons that made the older species nervous. But a threat to galactic stability? That was something else entirely. "They're afraid of us," he said quietly. "Yes, sir," Nari agreed. "They are." The journey to Meridian Station took 2 days. Do-yeon spent most of that time preparing. He reviewed every treaty humanity had signed. He studied every law the Council had passed. He memorized the names and histories of every species that would be judging him. He knew that knowledge was his only weapon. Meridian Station was enormous. It hung in orbit around a dead world called Telos Prime, a massive ring of metal and glass that could hold millions of beings. Do-yeon had visited it many times before, but it had never felt so hostile. As his shuttle approached the docking bay, he saw warships from a dozen species waiting nearby. They were not there by accident. The council chamber was at the heart of the station. It was a vast circular room with seats rising in tiers all around. Over 200 species were represented there, but only 7 held real power. The Villari, Cathari, Norith, Somani, Torvik, Jathani, and Ural, they were the 7 the founders of the council. And they decided the fate of everyone else. Do-yeon walked to the center of the chamber alone. He could feel thousands of eyes watching him. Some were curious. Some were hostile. A few, he thought, might even be sympathetic. But none of them would help him. In this room, humanity had no friends. High Speaker Orth rose from his seat. He was Villari, a tall being with silver skin and eyes like black glass. His voice filled the chamber like thunder. "Ambassador Park Do-yeon of Earth, you have been summoned to answer for the actions of your species. How do you plead?" Do-yeon took a breath. "I plead for understanding," he said. "Humanity is young among the stars. We have made mistakes. But we are not criminals, and we are not a threat." A murmur went through the chamber. Orth's expression did not change. "You deny the charges?" "I deny their intent," Do-yeon said carefully. "Yes, humanity has expanded quickly. We are an eager species. We see opportunity and we chase it. But we have not broken your laws out of malice. We have simply not always understood them." "Ignorance is not a defense," said a new voice. It belonged to the Cathari representative, a creature covered in hard blue plates. "Your species was given the same orientation as all others. You chose to ignore what you learned." "We chose to survive," Do-yeon replied. "When humanity first reached the stars, we found a galaxy already divided among ancient powers. We had no territory, no allies, no protection. We did what we had to do to make a place for ourselves. And now you have weapons that can destroy entire fleets," the North representative said. It was a massive being, all muscle and bone, with a voice like grinding stone. Weapons you refuse to share. Weapons you point at us. We point them at no one, Do-Yun said. They are for defense. Earth has many enemies and few friends. We would be fools to leave ourselves unprotected. Orath raised a hand for silence. The chamber went quiet. Ambassador, the Council has reviewed your species' actions carefully. We have debated for many cycles. And we have reached a decision. He paused, letting the weight of his words fill the room. Humanity must disarm its orbital defense grid. You will surrender your weapons to Council inspection teams. You will halt all expansion until further notice. And you will submit to monitoring of all military research. Do-Yun felt his heart stop. The orbital defense grid was Earth's shield. Without it, any species with a fleet could threaten their homeworld. This was not justice. This was subjugation, and if we refuse? He asked. Orath's black eyes showed nothing. Then the Council will take corrective measures. You have 30 cycles to comply. Do-Yun stood very still. He wanted to argue. He wanted to shout. But he knew it would do no good. The decision had already been made. This summons was not a trial. It was a sentence. I request time to consult with my government, he said. You have 10 cycles, Orath replied. Then you will return with Earth's answer. Do-Yun bowed his head slightly. Not in submission, but in acknowledgement. Then he turned and walked out of the chamber. He did not look back. Or I was waiting for him at the shuttle. She could see the answer on his face. How bad? She asked. They want us to surrender everything, Do-Yun said. Our defenses. Our weapons. Our future. Will Earth agree? Do-Yun looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there was home. Somewhere out there were 8 billion people who had no idea what was about to happen to them. No, he said. Earth will never agree to this. Then what happens? Do-Yun was quiet for a long moment. He thought about his wife waiting for him. He thought about the children playing in the streets of Seoul. He thought about everything humanity had built and everything they still hope to become. Then we find out what we're really made of, he said. The shuttle lifted off and carried them away from Meridian Station. Behind them, the Council continued its business, confident that the young species would submit. They had seen it many times before. Every species broke eventually, but they had never met humans before, and humans did not break. Earth looked beautiful from orbit. Blue oceans, green continents, white clouds drifting slowly across the surface. Park Do-Yun watched it through the shuttle window and felt a pain in his chest. He had traveled to dozens of worlds in his career, but none of them compared to this. This was home. This was what they wanted him to surrender. The shuttle descended through the atmosphere and landed in Seoul. The city had changed so much since Do-Yun was a child. Towers of glass and steel reached toward the sky. Flying vehicles moved in orderly streams between the buildings. 8 million people lived here, going about their lives. Unaware that everything was about to change, a car was waiting for him at the landing pad. It took him straight to the United Terran Government headquarters, a massive complex in the heart of the city. Security was tight. Armed guards stood at every entrance. Something had changed while he was gone. The council chamber was full when he arrived. All 12 members of the United Terran Council were present, along with their aides and advisors. At the head of the table sat President Moon Jae, a small woman with iron-gray hair and eyes that missed nothing. She had led Earth through 2 crises already. Now she faced a third. "Ambassador Park," she said. "Tell us everything." Do-Yun stood before them and reported what had happened at Meridian Station. He told them about the charges, the ultimatum, and the deadline. He held nothing back. When he finished, the room was silent. Defense Minister Choi Yoon-ji was the first to speak. She was a tall woman with short black hair and a soldier's bearing. She had commanded fleets before she entered politics, and she still thought like a warrior. "They want us to bare our throats," she said. "The orbital defense grid is the only thing keeping Earth safe. Without it, any of the 7 could burn our cities from space. This is not a demand for compliance. This is a demand for submission. They know that, said Intelligence Director Kong Taiho. He was an older man, quiet and careful, with a face that revealed nothing. That's the point. They don't expect us to agree. They want us to refuse so they have an excuse for what comes next. What comes next? President Moon asked. Kong activated a holographic display. It showed a map of the galaxy with fleet positions marked in different colors. Red symbols were clustered near Terran space. The Cathari and North have been moving their ships for weeks, he said. Quietly, slowly, but steadily. They're positioning for an invasion. The ultimatum is a pretext. If we accept it, they control us. If we refuse it, they attack us. Either way, they win. Minister Choi slammed her hand on the table. Then we fight. We have the orbital grid. We have the second and third fleets. We have weapons they've never seen. Let them come. And how many will die? Asked Foreign Minister Bae Yuna. She was younger than the others. Idealistic, still believing that words could solve anything. Millions? Billions? There has to be another way. There is no other way, Kong said. The Council has decided that humanity is a threat. They will not change their minds. Our only choices are slavery or war. The argument continued for hours. Some wanted to fight. Some wanted to negotiate. Some wanted to run, to abandon Earth and scatter to the colonies where the Council might not follow. But President Moon listened to all of them and said nothing. Finally, she turned to Do-Yun. Ambassador, you have sat with these beings. You have looked into their eyes. What do you think? Do-Yun considered the question carefully. He thought about Orth and his coal-black gaze. He thought about the Cathari and their contempt. He thought about the thousands of species in that chamber who had watched and done nothing. I think they have already decided, he said. They see us as a problem to be solved. If we submit, they will take everything that makes us dangerous and leave us helpless. If we refuse, they will destroy us as an example to others. There is no outcome where we remain free except one, which is? We make them afraid, Do-Yun said. Not of what we might do, of what we will do. We show them that the cost of this war will be higher than they can pay. President Moon nodded slowly. Then that is what we will do. She looked around the table. Ambassador Park will return to Meridian Station. He will deliver our answer. He will tell them that Earth will not disarm. He will tell them that any attack on Terran space will be met with everything we have. And he will make them understand that we are not like other species. What do you mean? Minister Bae asked. The president's eyes were hard. Other species surrender when the odds are against them. They calculate their chances and make logical decisions. But humans are not logical. We fight when we should run. We keep going when we should give up. We do not know how to lose. She paused. The Council needs to understand that. They need to know that this war will not end until one side is completely destroyed. And they need to ask themselves if they are willing to pay that price. The Council voted. It was unanimous. Earth would not submit. That night, Do-Yun went home to see his wife. Baek Soo-jin was waiting for him in their apartment. She was a professor of history, specializing in first contact between civilizations. She had spent her life studying moments like this. I heard the news, she said. They're sending you back? Yes, Do-Yun sat down beside her. He suddenly felt very tired. I have to deliver our answer. I have to tell them we won't surrender. Soo-jin took his hand. What will you say? I don't know yet. I need to make them see the truth. I need to make them understand what they're starting. Soo-jin was quiet for a moment. Then she said, Do you remember what I told you about the Torvik? They were nearly destroyed 5,000 years ago. Yes, by the Velari. The Torvik were expanding too fast, becoming too powerful. So the Velari crushed them. Burned their worlds, killed billions, reduced them to a fraction of what they were. She looked at him. The Torvik never recovered. They've been obedient members of the Council ever since. Why are you telling me this? Because every species in that council has a story like that. They were all conquered once. They all submitted. They all learned to bow. Her grip on his hand tightened. But we haven't. We're the only ones who haven't been broken. That's why they fear us. And that's what you need to make them see. Do-Yun understood. The council thought they knew how this would end. They had seen it 100 times before. Threaten a young species, make demands, watch them fold. It always worked, but humanity was different. Humanity had spent its entire existence fighting against impossible odds. Against nature, against disease, against each other. They had never stopped fighting. They didn't know how. I know what to say now, he told his wife. She kissed him softly. Then go say it. And come home safe. The next morning, Do-Yun boarded his shuttle and left Earth behind. He carried with him the hopes of 8 billion people. He carried the weight of humanity's future, and he carried a warning that the galaxy would never forget the council chamber was more crowded than before. Word had spread across the station that the humans were returning with their answer. Species that rarely attended sessions had come to watch. The viewing galleries were full. Recording devices floated in the air, broadcasting to 1,000 worlds. Everyone wanted to see what would happen next. Park Do-Yun stood at the entrance and looked at the sea of alien faces. He felt small. He felt alone. But he also felt something else. He felt the weight of his people behind him. 8 billion voices speaking through him. He would not let them down. Lieutenant Yun-Nari touched his arm. Sir, are you ready? No, he said honestly. But I'm going anyway. He walked into the chamber. The noise died away as he approached the center. High Speaker Orth watched him from above, his silver face expressionless. The other members of the Seven sat around him, waiting, judging. Ambassador Park Do-Yun, Orth said. You have returned with Earth's answer. The council will hear it now. Do-Yun looked up at them. He had spent the entire journey preparing these words. He had practiced them 100 times. But now, standing here, he threw away his prepared speech. He would speak from his heart instead. High Speaker, honored members of the council, he began. I come before you today not as a diplomat, but as a human being. I come to speak the truth, even if it is hard to hear. He paused, letting the silence build. You have accused humanity of many things. You say we expand too fast. You say we develop dangerous weapons. You say we refuse to submit to your authority. He nodded slowly. These things are true. We do not deny them. A murmur went through the chamber. Orth raised an eyebrow. But, Do-Yun continued, you have not asked why we do these things. You have not tried to understand us. You have only judged us. He turned in a slow circle, addressing the entire chamber. So let me explain. He activated his own holographic display. It showed the galaxy, but different from Kong's version. This one showed fleet movements over time. Humanity has been watching you, he said. We have studied your wars, your treaties, your methods. We know how you treat species that are weaker than you. We know what happened to the Torvik. We know what happened to the Meishi, the Drun, the Kalvari. He pointed to different regions of the map as he named them. All of them were young once. All of them were growing. And all of them were crushed because they became too strong. The chamber was completely silent now. You say we are a threat? Do-Yun said. But the truth is that you made us one. Every time you destroyed a rising species, you taught the next one to arm itself. Every time you demanded submission, you taught the next one to resist. Humanity learned from your history. We decided that we would never be victims. We built weapons because we knew someday we would need them. He changed the display. Now it showed the current positions of the Cathari and North fleets. And we were right, he said. These fleets have been moving toward our territory for weeks. You positioned them before you even gave us the ultimatum? You never intended to give us a real choice. This was always going to be a war. The Cathari representative rose to its feet. You accuse the council of plotting against you? You have no proof. I have these fleet movements, Do-Yun replied calmly. I have intelligence reports from 6 different sources. I have the testimony of 3 species who were asked to join the attack and refused. He looked directly at the Cathari. Would you like me to share their names? The Cathari sat down without another word. Do-Yun turned back to Orith. Hi, Speaker. I was sent here to deliver Earth's answer. So here it is. He took a breath. Earth will not disarm. We will not surrender our defenses. We will not submit to your authority. The chamber exploded with noise. Shouts of outrage from some, whispers of shock from others. Orith raised his hand for silence, but it took a long time for order to return. You understand what this means? Orith said. If you refuse to comply, the council will have no choice but to take action. Yes, Do-Yun said. I understand. And I want you to understand something too. He stepped closer, his voice rising to fill the chamber. Humanity does not want this war. We have nothing to gain from it and everything to lose. We would rather live in peace. We would rather trade and learn and grow alongside you. He paused and his voice grew harder. But if you force us to fight, we will fight. And we will not stop until one side is destroyed. He looked around the chamber, meeting as many eyes as he could. You have read our history. You know what we have done to each other? The wars we have fought? The weapons we have used? The atrocities we have committed? His voice dropped to almost a whisper. Now imagine what we will do to you. Complete silence. No one moved. Humans do not surrender, Do-Yun continued. We do not retreat. We do not give up. When our backs are against the wall, we become more dangerous, not less. You think you can threaten our homeworld and we will submit? You are wrong. Threaten Earth and you will see what we truly are. He turned to the minor species in the galleries above, the ones who had no vote but many voices. I say this to all of you. Not just the 7, but everyone. This war does not have to happen. The Council can withdraw its ultimatum. The fleets can return to their territories. We can find a better way. He spread his hands. Humanity is not your enemy. We are only your enemy if you make us one. He faced Orith one final time. High Speaker, the choice is yours. You can have peace with humanity. You can have trade and alliance and cooperation. Or you can have war. His eyes were steady. But if you choose war, understand this. You will not be fighting a species that wants to survive. You will be fighting a species that wants to win. And we will burn the galaxy to ash before we kneel. He stopped speaking. The silence was absolute. Then Orith spoke, his voice cold. The council will deliberate on your words. You are dismissed. Do-Yun bowed his head just slightly. Then he turned and walked out of the chamber. The doors closed behind him, and he allowed himself one long breath. His hands were shaking. His heart was pounding. He had done what he came to do. He had delivered humanity's warning. Nari was waiting for him. She looked shaken too. That was ... She couldn't find the words. I know, he said. What happens now? Do-Yun looked back at the closed doors. Behind them, the most powerful beings in the galaxy were deciding humanity's fate. He had done everything he could. The rest was out of his hands. Now we wait, he said. And we pray that they're smarter than we think they are. But deep in his heart, he already knew the answer. He had seen it in Orith's eyes. He had seen it in the way the fleets were positioned. The council had already made its decision. His warning had changed nothing. War was coming, and humanity would face it alone. The council chamber emptied slowly after Do-Yun left. The minor species filed out in silence, speaking in whispers, glancing at each other with uncertain eyes. They had come to see a young species humbled. Instead, they had witnessed something else entirely. Something that would be discussed on 1,000 worlds before the day was over. The 7 remained. When the doors sealed and the recording devices powered down, High Speaker Orith rose from his seat. His silver skin seemed darker than usual, his black eyes harder. The human has made his position clear, he said. Earth will not submit. They have chosen defiance. He looked around at the other members. We must now decide how to respond. The Samani representative spoke first. Her name was Vela, and she was ancient even by the standards of her long-lived species. Her body was thin and fragile, covered in pale green scales, but her mind was still sharp. "I urge caution," she said. The human spoke truth. "We did position our fleets before giving them the ultimatum. We were prepared for war before we asked for peace. That is not justice. That is hunting." "Justice is irrelevant," the Cathari representative replied. His name was Korath, and his blue armor-plated body was built for combat. "The humans are a threat. They have weapons that could challenge even our most advanced ships. Every year they grow stronger. If we wait, they will become impossible to stop." "Then let them grow," said the Jethani representative. She was called Mirren, a small being with 4 arms and golden fur, known for her wisdom. "Let them become powerful. Let them take their place among us as equals." "Is that so terrible?" "Yes," Cora said flatly. "We have ruled this galaxy for 10,000 years. We will not share that rule with creatures who were living in mud huts while we were building empires." The North representative rumbled in agreement. His name was Grath, and he was the largest being in the chamber, a mountain of muscle and bone. "The Cathari speaks truth. The humans are dangerous because they do not know their place. They act as if they are equals. They must be taught otherwise. And what lesson do you propose?" Vela asked coldly. "Shall we burn their worlds as we did the Torvik? Shall we kill billions and call it education?" "If necessary," Grath said. "One species' suffering is a small price for galactic stability." The Ural representative had been silent until now. His name was Sen, and he was the most mysterious of the 7. The Ural were beings of energy, existing in mechanical shells, and no one truly understood how they thought. But when Sen spoke, everyone listened. "The humans said something interesting," Sen observed. "He said they want to win. Not survive. Win." A pause. "In 10,000 years of this council's existence, no species facing conquest has ever said that. They plead for mercy. They offer submission. They try to survive." His energy crackled within his shell. This human spoke of victory or death. Nothing in between. "Because they are arrogant," Korath said. "Because they do not understand what they face." Perhaps," Sen replied. "Or perhaps they understand exactly what they face. And they are telling us that the cost of this war will be higher than we expect." The Torvik representative finally spoke. His name was Brel, an elder with gray skin and tired eyes. His species had been servants of the Council for 5,000 years, ever since the Velari burned their civilization to ash. He rarely spoke in these meetings, but now his voice was quiet and firm. "I must say something," he began. "Something that may be unwelcome." Orath gestured for him to continue. "My people remember the war that broke us," Brel said. "We remember the ships that came to our worlds. We remember the fires that fell from the sky. We remember surrendering because we had no other choice." He looked around the chamber. "We were like the humans once. Young, ambitious, growing, and we were destroyed for it." "Your species was spared," Orath reminded him. "Spared," Brel's voice held an edge of bitterness. "Yes, spared to serve. Spared to watch as others rise and fall. Spared to be an example of what happens to those who reach too high." He straightened in his seat. "But I have watched the humans. I have studied them. And I tell you this, they are not like us. They will not surrender as we did." "Then they will be destroyed instead of spared," Grath said. "Maybe," Brel agreed. "But how many ships will it cost? How many soldiers? How many worlds will burn on both sides before it ends?" He shook his head. "The human ambassador promised that if we go to war, humanity will fight until one side is completely destroyed." "I believe him. I believe that if we start this war, we will have to finish it by killing every last human in the galaxy. Are we prepared to do that?" Silence fell over the chamber. Finally, Orath spoke. "We must vote. The question is simple. Do we accept Earth's refusal and take military action, or do we pursue further diplomacy?" The vote was called. The Cathari voted for war. The North voted for war. The Velari voted for war. The Ural abstained. The Silmani voted against. The Jethani voted against. The Torvik voted against. 4 for war. 3 against. 1 abstention. The motion passes, Orth announced. The Council will take military action against Earth and its colonies. Operation Silent Dawn will commence in 15 cycles. Vela closed her eyes in pain. Mirren looked down at her hands. Brel simply stared at the floor, his expression empty. On Earth, the news came through back channels long before any official announcement. Intelligence Director Kong Taiho received the message in the middle of the night and immediately called an emergency session. "It's confirmed," he told the Council. They voted for war. The combined fleet of the Villari, Cathari, and North will attack in 15 cycles. Over 6,000 ships. Defense Minister Choi Yoon-ji stood up. Then we activate Ember Protocol. Total war footing. Every ship, every soldier, every weapon we have. President Moon nodded slowly. Do it, and send word to the colonies. Begin evacuations to the hardened positions. Civilians first. The orders went out within the hour. Across Earth and its territories, humanity began to prepare. Reserve fleets launched from hidden bases. Orbitai stations powered up weapons that had never been fired. Factories switched to military production. Civilians gathered their families and moved to shelters deep underground. Admiral Im Hajun took command of the Second Fleet. He was an older man, scarred by a dozen battles, with a reputation for taking risks that seemed insane until they worked. His ship was the battleship Dokdo, and it would lead the defense of Terran space. He gathered his captains and told them the situation. 6,000 enemy ships against fewer than 2,000 human vessels. The odds were terrible. Many of them would die. I won't lie to you, he said. This is the fight of our lives. Maybe the last fight we'll ever have. But I want you to remember something. He looked at each of them in turn. Those aliens out there think they've already won. They think we'll break. They think we'll run. They think we'll surrender. His voice hardened. Let's show them how wrong they are. On Meridian Station, Park Do-yeon received orders to return home. But he had one more thing to do. First, he accessed the station's communication, network, and broadcast a message to every species in the galaxy. Not just the 7, but everyone. His face appeared on screens across 1,000 worlds. This is Ambassador Park Do-yeon of Earth, he said. The Galactic Council has voted for war against humanity. In 15 cycles, their fleets will attack our territory. I speak now to all species who believe in justice. He leaned closer to the camera. Humanity did not want this war. We asked for peace. We were refused. Now we will defend ourselves with everything we have. But we remember who stood with us and who stood against us. His eyes were hard. Any species that aids the Council will be remembered. Any species that helps humanity, even in small ways, will be remembered too. And when this war ends, however it ends, we will remember. He paused, choose wisely. The message ended. Across the galaxy, beings looked at each other and wondered what they had just witnessed. Some called it arrogance. Some called it courage. But everyone felt the same thing. The galaxy was about to change, and nothing would ever be the same. Again, the pale boundary was a region of empty space at the edge of Terran territory. No planets, no stations, nothing but darkness and distant stars. It was here that humanity had chosen to make its stand. If the enemy wanted Earth, they would have to come through this place first. Admiral M. Hajun stood on the bridge of the Dokdo and watched the tactical display. His fleet was spread out in a defensive formation, 600 warships of various sizes. Behind them, the rest of the Terran forces guarded the inner systems. If the Second Fleet fell, the Third would take over. And if the Third fell, the orbital defense grid would be the last line, his executive officer. Commander Shin Boyang approached with a report. She was young, barely 30, but she had been with him through 3 engagements and never flinched. Sir, long-range sensors have detected the enemy fleet. They'll be here in 2 hours. Nodded. How many? 6,400 ships, sir. Villari, Cathari, and North. They have us outnumbered more than 10 to 1. Looked at the display again. 6,000 ships. A force that could conquer most species in a single afternoon. And it was all coming for them. Signal all ships, he said. Prepare for combat. And patch me through to the fleet. Boyoung made the connection. Im's face appeared on every screen in every human vessel. This is Admiral Im, he said. In 2 hours we will engage the enemy. I'm not going to make a long speech. You know why we're here. You know what we're fighting for, Earth, our families, our future. He paused. The enemy thinks they've already won. They think we're too small, too young, too weak to stop them. Let's prove them wrong. He cut the channel and turned back to the display. Sir, Boyoung said quietly, our chances are bad, Im agreed. But we're not here to win. We're here to make them pay. Every ship they lose against us is one less ship that reaches Earth. Every hour we hold them is one more hour for the evacuation. He looked at her. We're buying time with our lives. That's the job. She nodded and returned to her station. The enemy fleet arrived exactly on schedule. They emerged from faster-than-light travel in a massive wave, thousands of ships appearing all at once in a display of overwhelming force. The formation was perfect. The coordination was flawless. This was an armada that had conquered dozens of species and never known defeat. Admiral Im opened a channel to the enemy flagship. The face that appeared on his screen was Valari. Silver skin, black eyes, cold and contemptuous. Human Admiral, the Valari commander said. I am Fleet Master Torath. You are outnumbered and outmatched. Surrender your vessels and your crews will be spared. Im almost smiled. Fleet Master, I have a counteroffer. Turn your ships around and go home. You will not find what you're looking for here. And what do you think we're looking for? An easy victory, Im said. You won't find it. Torath's expression did not change. Brave words. But words will not save you. This is your last chance. Surrender or be destroyed. Im straightened in his chair. We were warned, he said. Now I'm warning you. We will not surrender. We will not retreat. We will fight until every one of our ships is burning wreckage. He leaned forward. And we will take as many of you with us as we can. Torath's black eyes showed nothing. Then you have chosen death? No, Im replied. We've chosen to fight. You chose our death when you voted for this war. But you'll find that killing humans is harder than you expected, he cut the channel. All ships, he said calmly. Attack. The Battle of the Pale Boundary began. Human ships surged forward in formations that the enemy had never seen. Instead of holding defensive lines, they attacked in waves, small groups striking at vulnerable points and then pulling back. Drone carriers released hundreds of unmanned fighters that swarmed enemy vessels, overwhelming their defenses through sheer numbers. Destroyer squadrons made suicide runs against the largest battleships, sacrificing themselves to take out bridges and engines. The enemy responded with devastating firepower. Their weapons were more powerful, their shields were stronger, their ships were faster. Human vessels exploded by the dozens. Thousands of men and women died in the first hour alone, but the humans did not break. Every time the enemy destroyed a squadron, another took its place. Every time they pushed forward, human ships appeared on their flanks. Admiral Im directed the battle from the Dokdo, shifting forces, exploiting weaknesses, refusing to give ground without a price. The enemy began to take losses. Not many at first, but steadily. A Cathari cruiser destroyed by a coordinated strike. A North battleship crippled by fighters that flew directly into its engines. A Valari command ship that suddenly lost shields and was torn apart in seconds by weapons that seemed to ignore all defenses. Fleet Master Torath watched his tactical display with growing frustration. He had expected this battle to be over quickly. Instead, the humans were fighting like creatures possessed. They took losses that would break any other species and kept fighting. They used tactics that were reckless, wasteful, almost insane. And somehow they were working. What are they doing? He demanded. They're throwing away their ships for nothing. His tactical officer studied the data. They're not fighting to win, Fleet Master. They're fighting to cost us. Every ship we lose here is one less ship for the invasion of Earth. They're trading their lives for damage to our fleet. That's suicide. Yes, the officer agreed. But it's working. 6 hours into the battle, the Terran Second Fleet was nearly destroyed. Admiral Im had lost 400 ships, 2/3 of his force. The Dokdo itself was damaged, fires burning in 3 sections, half its weapons offline. Bodies floated in space. Wreckage drifted everywhere. But the enemy had lost over 2,000 ships. 2,000 against a force that started with 600. It was a ratio that made no sense, that defied all military logic. And it was exactly what Admiral Im had promised. "Sir," Commander Boyang said. Her voice was strained. Blood ran down her face from a cut on her forehead. "We can't hold much longer. We have maybe 50 operational ships left." Looked at the display. The enemy was regrouping for a final push. Once they broke through, there would be nothing between them and Earth except the Third Fleet and the orbital grid. Maybe that would be enough. Maybe it wouldn't. "Signal all remaining ships," he said. "Fall back to Rally Point 7. We've done what we came to do." The remnants of the Second Fleet began to retreat. The enemy let them go. They had paid too high a price to pursue. On Meridian Station, the minor species watched the battlefields in stunned silence. They had expected a slaughter. They had expected to see humans die like all the other young species had died, quickly and helplessly. Instead, they had seen something different. They had seen humans fight like nothing they had ever witnessed. Messages began to flow. Encrypted communications from a dozen species sent to Earth through back channels. Some offered supplies. Some offered information. Some simply said, "We remember your ambassador's words." On the Velari flagship, Fleet Master Torith stared at his losses. Over 2,000 ships destroyed. Tens of thousands of soldiers dead. And Earth was still unconquered. He had won the battle. But he knew with cold certainty that he had not won the war. The humans would rebuild. They would come back stronger. They would never stop fighting. He had been warned. He had not listened. Now he understood. On Earth, the people watched the same feeds. They saw their fleet burning. They saw their soldiers dying. They saw the enemy still coming, bloodied but unbroken, but they also saw something else. They saw that the enemy had been hurt. They saw that humans could fight back. They saw that the galaxy was watching and learning. Park Do-yun stood in the Terran Council chamber, surrounded by the leaders of humanity. President Moon's face was grief-stricken but determined. Minister Choi was already planning the next phase of defense. Director Kang was analyzing the enemy's weaknesses. "The war has begun," President Moon said quietly. "We lost the first battle, but we showed them who we are." Do-yun thought about his wife waiting for him at home. He thought about the 8 billion people depending on them. He thought about the future they were fighting for. "Yes," he said. "And this is only the beginning." Outside the windows, the sun was setting over Seoul. The sky was red like fire, like blood. Like a promise, humanity had been tested, humanity had not broken, and the galaxy would never forget.